Welcome to Nigeria Daily, coming to you from Daily Trust. My name is Martia Umar. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Nigeria Daily. The 2023 general elections have come and gone, but it's still raising a lot of dust. The litigation cases is just glaring. You can hear it. You see it on news, reporters, witnesses from different parts of the country, the people who are seeking redress. Some of the presidential candidates and House of Assembly or House of Representatives members who feel that they have to reclaim their mandate by seeking redress in court. Though this does not contradict the 2022 Electoral Act as amended, and 133 subsection 1 states that an election petition may be presented by one or more of the following persons: a candidate who in an election or a political party that participates in an election can bring an action to challenge the conduct or outcome of an election. And this has led to politicians spending huge money to seek legal practitioners to claim their mandate in court, or rather seek legal redress. So now let's connect to Barrister Muchia Okinsanya, a legal practitioner in Abuja. He had a chat with me, and he tells us more on election petition and money spent by these politicians for each electoral petition.
So the thing is that there is no fixed figure that a lawyer will take. Generally speaking, when it comes to paying lawyers, each lawyer, depending on his year of call and depending on whether the lawyer is a senior advocate or not, will have a particular fee that will be paid. And these fees generally are negotiable. But what's important is to note that senior advocates are paid higher than those who are not senior advocates. So it depends on who the client is. It depends on the volume of work. It also depends on where the matter is being handled. So if you're talking of election petition for the president, for instance, you're sure it will run into several big millions. If you're talking of the governorship election tribunal, it will also run into several millions.
Can you tell us exact figure, possible, maybe you're saying billions, like is it a
billion? I'm saying millions.
Okay, millions.
Yeah, it may even be in billions. It is very possible. There's nothing that is impossible. And that's why I say there is no fixed amount. It depends on negotiations.
Okay.
But let me give you an example. If you check the presidential election tribunal, for instance, you will find that there are teams of lawyers. If you take, for instance, say the petitioner, you will find that the petitioner will have about 30 lawyers or more. And these are not just young lawyers. Majority of them are senior advocates. So if you're going to put together, for instance, say they're taking 100 million, that's going to run into billions. I'm just giving you an example.
Okay.
Yeah. So the point is that there's no specific amount, but you will be sure that for anybody who is going to hire senior advocates, he or she will be ready to pay so much to be able to get their professional services.
So, sir, how is this taking a toll in the judiciary process?
So I do not think it's anything that has to do with the judiciary, because these lawyers we talked about are offering professional services, and their professional services are also highly priced anywhere in the world, not just in Nigeria. Even in other parts of the world, professional services are highly priced, and particularly even when it comes to professional services rendered by lawyers. So it has no effect whatsoever on the judicial process. For those lawyers, that is what they do, and that is where they earn their fees. And you know, when they also earn their fees, they also pay taxes. And some of these senior lawyers or senior advocates also have several employees under them that they also pay. So I do not think it has any effect on the judicial system. It has no effect whatsoever, because the monies they collect is specifically for the professional services. It doesn't go into the coffers of the judiciary or the pockets of the judicial officers.
All right. So the money being collected for each petition is now being shared among the lawyers team for the petition, right?
Yes. Just the team of lawyers are the ones who receive the money from their clients. So whoever has briefed them is their clients, and that's where they get their professional fees from.
Well, that was Barrister Mutia Kinsoya, a legal practitioner who practices in Abuja. He has handled election petitions cases before. He speaks about money paid to lawyers for election petitions, and of course, how this lawyers has also sees it as a business during election period. At this point, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, Nigeria Daily will continue. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
It's enlightening.
It's incisive.
It's analytical.
It's entertaining.
It's educating.
It's The Bearing, a podcast from Daily Trust addressing issues that have direct bearing in your life. Join us every week on www.dailytrust.com. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Daily Trust, on Twitter at twitter.com/Daily Trust, and on YouTube at youtube.com/Daily Trust. To listen in, join us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back. This is Nigeria Daily, coming to you from Daily Trust. So listen to this episode all over again, because trust me, you've missed the first part. But if you've been with us, I'd like to say thank you for sticking around. So if you want to listen to this episode from the top, you have to go to our website, which is www.dailytrust.com or buzzsprout.com. You can listen or download from Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and TuneIn Radio by searching for Nigeria Daily. So before the break, we heard from a legal practitioner who had a conversation with my colleague, and they had a discussion around the election petition tribunal and how a lot of money is being paid to lawyers, especially senior advocates of Nigeria, to take up these cases or seek redress for people who feel like they need to reclaim their mandate. Elections are very expensive, running into billions that could be put into making refineries work. Just imagine this money being used to build 2 primary schools in a lot of local government areas across state, because according to the legal practitioners, millions and billions are involved. Now, how does this affect the political, economic, and social terrain in Nigeria when we talk about election and politics? Now let's listen to Professor Kamilu Sani Fagi, who is a political science professor from Bayero University, Kano.
You see, the use of money has a very negative impact on the democratic system we're operating. It has a negative impact on the country, and it has a negative impact on the economy as a whole. Use of money in one way disenfranchises good and credible people from contesting election, because they know they don't have the money to contest the election. So in a way, democracy becomes, for the highest bidder. The money bags are the ones who will contest and are the ones who will control the government. So that is one way. The other way is that even if somebody is good and he doesn't have the money, his only options are 2. Either to remain an onlooker or to join politics and now have godfathers who will finance and bankroll him for the election. Now, if he happens to win, so the end result is that he will not work for the people or for the country, rather he will work for his godfathers who bankroll him. So the system will now be accountable only to the rich instead of to the people. So in a way, when we have this money politics, we end up having a democracy which, instead of being the government of the people, for the people and by the people, it ends up being the government for the rich, by the rich and for the rich. So the ordinary people are disenfranchised in that regard. Secondly, or thirdly, the use of money tends to breed violence and thuggery in politics, because people now invest money, so they will do whatever to make sure that they win the election. And thirdly, it makes the government unaccountable to the electorate, like I said earlier on, because those who invest their money, if they win, what they will do is eventually they will try to recuperate what they invested in politics. So, and finally, personally, the use of money is one of the reasons why our electoral competitions are not determined in the ballot box. Rather, they are finally determined in courts, because people will make politics a do-or-die affair, and they will go into the process not with a clean mind to contest free and fair election, but each one goes into the process with a deal to winning it by hook or crook. So that is why even our politicians now have a common saying that it is better for you to be taken to the court than for you to take, your opponent to court. In other words, do whatever you will do to win the election, whether free or fair, whatever it is, you must try to win it at all costs.
And that was the voice of Professor Kamilu Sani Fagge of the Department of Political Science, Bayero University, Kano. Now the big question is, how does politicking dissuade other people who want to venture into politics? Professor Kamilu Sani Fagge tells us more.
The use of money, disenfranchises a lot of people, because some who don't have the money to contest, they have to either be onlookers or to go to the extent of having godfathers. And the other thing that we have to say about use of money is that the money that is being used, sometimes, like I said, the politicians end up in court, and there they will also hire senior advocates in order to, get their own interest. I mean, to get what they want. Now, at the end of it is that if somebody wins, he will be using the office, the public resources, for his own defense. Now, at the end of it, since the politician knew very well that what determines final court outcome is not the substance of the litigation, but rather the technicalities of how the process has been taken to court. So you see somebody on seat using public resources, and whatever be the outcome of the litigation, he will go scotch-free. If he loses, nobody will now say the whole resources that you use, which could have been used for public, for developmental purposes, you have to repay them. You will go, without repaying all that you use. If, on the other hand, he happens to win in the court, then he will continue all the resources that he has spent. They had been sunk into his own defense, and they had been diverted from public use to his own private and personal use.
And that was the voice of Professor Kamilu Sani Fagge of the Department of Political Science, Bayero University, Kano. God bless Nigeria. And with that, we have come to the end of this episode of Nigeria Daily. To all the people who contributed to this episode of The Daily, we want to say thank you. Nigeria Daily is open to sponsorship and ad replacement. It is a Daily Trust production that can be downloaded or listened to on our Daily Trust website, which is www.dailytrust.com and buzzsprout.com. You can listen to us on NAS FM 89.9 in Yola, NAS FM 105.5 Mubi, Unity FM 93.3 Jos, Sawaba Radio 104.9 Hadejia, and Badegi Radio 90. Google Podcast, Spotify, and TuneIn Radio. If you have questions or comments, let us know on our social media handles on Twitter and Instagram at daily_trust. daily_trust. On Facebook, you can find us at Daily Trust. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Have a pleasant day.